We've all heard the sentence, don't judge a book by its cover, but if we're going to be completely honest, we all do it. Your book's cover, along with the title, is what makes sales. It's what grabs the attention of the readers or the buyers. They see that cover, they see the title, and then it brings them in, it draws them in. It's the hook of your book. It's not the story itself. It's not the back cover. It's not even the blurb in the description or the sales copy. It's the cover and the title. And it's so important to get those two things right. In today's episode, I want to talk about the 3 must-have ingredients to make a great book title. Let's talk about it. My name is Travis D. Peterson. I am a children's book author. I'm also an author coach for children's book authors, but I'm coming out with a book that it's a nonfiction or a prescriptive nonfiction book for indie authors. And I've been working on the title of that book for a while. And so that I had a working title that I thought was great. And I'll just share a little bit of backstory about that title. I came up with a sort of a mock-up of the cover, just quickly thrown together, and I included my title and I shared it in a Facebook group, and it flopped. It flopped big time. And I'm so glad that I did that early on while I was in the self-editing phase of the book, because it gave me insight to what really makes a great title and how we need to think about our audience and not so much the content of the book. So I'm going to tell you what the new title is. The old title was The Indie Author's Dozen. You've probably heard me say that before, but I've completely changed the name, and I have a completely different outlook on the direction of the book, you might say, as far as the title goes and the messaging of it. And so I'll get into that later, but I want to go ahead and give you the 3 main ingredients for your book title. Now, these 3 ingredients are for prescriptive, I'm struggling over that word, prescriptive nonfiction books. Now, what does that mean exactly? That's kind of like your how-to books, your business books. It's where you're helping the reader go from one point to another, they're reaching a goal. Now, I know that my audience is mostly made up of children's book authors. So I want to give you these first 3 for nonfiction how-to books, but I will also give you 3 ingredients for children's book titles. And you're going to see that there's some similarity there, but there's a big difference as well. So let's get into it first. The very first ingredient that your title needs is it has to be memorable. Now, part of that is being short. I don't know how important that is. Great titles, if you can get it under 3 words or less, that's fantastic. 1, 2, 3 words would be great, but that's getting harder and harder to come up with. And doing it in a way that is intriguing and captivating is another. And I've struggled with that with my book that I'm coming out with. And to be honest with you, it's not so short, but I believe that my new title is much more memorable, and I'll explain that later. So think about your title. Is it memorable? The second one is, does your title spark curiosity? Does it spark intrigue? Again, it's a hook. You're not trying to give everything away in the title. It's a hook. It's to grab their attention, grab them. You have like 3 seconds for them to look at the cover and decide if they actually want to open it up or read the back cover. You have 3 seconds. So does your title grab their attention and spark curiosity and intrigue in your story or in the contents of your book? And number 3, does it reflect transformation? This is where I really struggled with my nonfiction book for authors. The title that I had, The Indie Author's Dozen, was an explanation of the answer or the the way to overcome the audience's problem rather than the transformation that the reader should have. In other words, the Indie Authors Dozen is a framework that I describe in the book, and it's how they can overcome the problem, which is first-time authors, especially children's book authors, indie authors, they don't know what to do, and they kind of get lost in the process of how to self-publish and who they need to bring onto their self-publishing team to make it successful. And so that's the problem I overcome, is basically helping them get over that fear, not knowing how to move forward and find a solution. And so the Indie Authors Dozen is the framework and it's the solution, but it's so, it gets lost. Do you understand? Like that title doesn't make sense until you read the book, and it's not really intriguing enough for the reader. And it doesn't offer the transformation. It offers the solution, but not the transformation. So I'm going to reveal the new title to you, and it's a little bit longer. It goes from 4 words to 5 words, but I think it fits all 3 of these. It's more memorable, it sparks curiosity, and it reflects transformation. The new title is The Indie Author That Could. Now remember, my audience is mostly children's book authors. And if you're in the kidlit space at all, you're very familiar with the classic book, The Little Engine That Could. So there's kind of that tie-in with the classic children's book. And the Indie Author That Could reflects the transformation. It sort of reminds the author or shows the author that they can do this. Remember the old saying from that children's book? I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. I want my authors to have that same thought in their mind. I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. The Indie Author That Could, because there's so many authors out there who they don't know if they can do it. They're stuck. They're scared. They're full of fear. They don't know how they're going to get through it, and they don't know who they need to help them get through it. So that's why I think this title is perfect for my book, even though it's fairly long. Memorable because it ties into that classic children's book. It sparks curiosity. What does it mean? The indie author that could. What does that mean? What is this book going to offer me? But it also reflects that transformation. They're going from, I don't think I can, to, I think I can, and I will. So I'm excited to release that book after the first of the year, early 2026. And before, I'm going to get into this in a minute. I'm going to give you the 3 ingredients for children's book titles. But if you're interested in that book, I encourage you to go to my website, launchmissioncreative.com. You'll see a bar across the top where you can grab the first chapter, the intro chapter of The Indie Author That Could. So go and grab that in just a few moments. Finish the video first, then go grab that, and I'll put the link down below. You can actually go directly to the sign-up form, which is launchmissioncreative.com/dozen. So I'm still kind of using that keyword from the first title, but I need to change that. But we're still in the process here. It's a process, right? So launchmissioncreative.com/dozen to get the intro chapter for my new book for authors that will walk you through finding confidence, gaining clarity, and being successful. In fact, the whole title with the subtitle is The Indie Author That Could. Self-publish children's books with confidence, clarity, and unstoppable success. I believe that those 3 things are what my book will offer you as a first-time children's book author. If you're self-publishing, I want to help you find confidence, clarity, and unstoppable success. Now, back to the ingredients. So we talked about the nonfiction book ingredients for a title. Ingredients are very similar to what you need for a children's book title, a fiction book for kids, a picture book. What do I mean? Well, the first 2 ingredients, Is it memorable? Your title has to be memorable. If it's plain and boring, if it's hard to pronounce, if it's just kind of, there's no rhythm to it, it's going to be difficult for kids especially to request the book and say, hey, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, I want you to read this book to me. It's not memorable. Is your title memorable? The second one, does it spark curiosity? Your title still needs to spark curiosity even with a children's fiction picture book. Does it spark curiosity? Does it grab them? Does it have that attention-grabbing hook in the title? And then finally, for nonfiction books, I said, does it reflect transformation? For your picture book, I want you to think about, does it reflect the emotional journey? With picture books, the emotion that your story presents, and it could be multiple emotions, but what is the emotional journey of your story that you want to share with kids? And is that journey reflected in your title? Now, you don't want to give away the story. You don't want to give away that emotion, but you want to hint at it. So in my books, Ada and the Helpers was my first title, and it is memorable. It's fairly simple. It sparks curiosity. What are the helpers? And then it reflects the emotional journey because she does get help. She needs help, and she gets help in multiple ways. And so my second book, Never Ever Build a Blanket Fort, is memorable because it kind of how do I say it? Kind of almost rubs you the wrong way. It's like, why shouldn't I build a blanket fort? That's a bit counterintuitive. So it grabs your attention, it sparks curiosity, it's memorable, and it reflects the emotional journey. It's like, okay, there's a danger in building a blanket fort. Suddenly, you wouldn't think about that, but suddenly there's this danger involved. And so I love that aspect of the book, and I'm about to come out with the sequel for that book, Never Ever Build a Soapbox Car, and it's very similar in the title structure there. So if you're a children's book author, I want you to also think, is it memorable? Does it spark curiosity? And does it reflect the emotional journey? Think about your title. Which of those three do you need to work on to develop your title, to come up with a better title maybe for your book if you haven't released it yet? Do you need it to be more memorable? Do you need it to spark curiosity? Do you need to tie it in with some sort of emotional journey? Let me know in the comments below which one you need to work on for your working title. And again, I want to remind you to go to launchmissioncreative.com/dozen to grab the intro chapter for my new book that's coming out in just a couple of months. I'm excited to get that into the hands of first-time children's book authors. And so I hope you'll join me on that journey, and I look forward to seeing what happens with it. Hey, thanks for joining me, and please hit the like and subscribe buttons if you'd like to follow along if you're a children's book author and you want more great content like this.